All right. Ooh. Yeah, we straight. What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Three Stickity Stacks in this thing, baby, representing TKOG, and it's time to update Shaddolls, and I'm gonna cover subscriber requests. People have been asking for my take on Shaddol, trap Shaddolls, basically. I think Shaddolls are an incredible archetype. I honestly do. You guys know I'm an enthusiast for this deck. I've been playing it for a long time. I played it like even when Construct was banned and the deck really didn't have anything going for it at all. I was still trying to keep the dream alive, playing Prediction Princess Shaddolls. And my faithfulness paid off. Construct eventually crept off the ban list. We got a new structure deck. And here we are today, still rocking dolls, and it's still an incredible deck. It has one of the best toolbox in the game. Like, this deck, typically, it does have a solution. That's the best way to describe it. It typically has a solution for a lot of different situations that you will encounter when you're playing against rogue or meta decks. There's just like a lot of problem-solving utility cards that this deck has, a lot of different ways to interact. Winda is not the only trick this deck has up its sleeve, and I really do, it like grinds my gears when people act like if Winda's not good against a deck, then Shaddolls not good against that deck. Because just because Winda's not good doesn't mean Shaddolls are themselves are not good. This deck does so much more than just summon Winda and sit on it, and anybody that thinks that that's all this deck does, they don't even know how to play this deck in the first place. The way I play it using its strengths to its advantage. It's a toolbox deck, so what do you think I do? I try to get access to all my utility cards as quickly as possible. I try to get Core, Resh, Incarnation, El Shaddol Fusion, Schism, every Shaddol spell or trap that I possibly can, and loop those by fusion summoning and bringing my fusions back off Resh, sending them from the field to the graveyard to keep replacing and recurring my resources to make a grind game that's so resilient and OP that very few decks can keep up with it. The way I play Shaddolls, I do not lose to Eldritch. I absolutely do not. That's one of my easiest matchups ever. I don't know why people think that this deck has a bad Eldritch matchup. I think that Eldritch players just get paired up against bad Shaddol players. So this deck's amazing. The trap variant does offer a different layer to the defensive aspect of the deck, that it's already such a good control deck, and it's already able to manipulate what can and cannot resolve. You already can literally change tempos, force tempos. Like, your opponent might not have a choice, they will have to play slow, because Winda is, even though it's not the focus of the deck, it's like just having access to a card like that, you can make your opponent play the way that you want them to play, and you can still play exactly how you want to play, because you can remove your windows whenever you want to. But just having that level of, I guess you could say, control, adding the traps to that just give you more blowouts and win conditions that your opponent has to respect, and it makes side decking really difficult, because this deck can operate as a control deck or a combo deck, and it's cohesively able to do both at the same time, which makes it very difficult to deal with. It has just an amazing ceiling, to be honest. So I am going to get into my profile, but I've got to hype my deck up, because honestly, Shaddolls are amazing. They've always been amazing. It's a very, very powerful archetype, well-designed, very balanced. But yeah, I do like the traps. I do like the defensive aspect to it, that I can use these to hold my opponent at bay. They can be blowouts. They're definitely going to be caught off. Your opponent can be caught off guard sometimes, and just being able to combo off an OTK or play the slow grind game, whichever one, that's the embodiment of mid-range. That's where you want your deck to be at. That's why I like mid-range, because just because I can combo off doesn't mean I will. Like, I will literally choose to not combo off sometimes. Like, I've always been like that ever since, like, I don't know how long, with playing Shaddolls. Like, I've always been like that. I rarely combo off, but when I do, I'm just using Construct to send Resh, L, Schism, as many as I possibly can, and just add them to my hand and set them and pass, and I just start winning, abusing Construct and Cross Sheet. But let's get into the profile. I'm sure you guys are just waiting for that. So we're starting off, for starters, basically the only normal summon starter here is Mathman. I've cut down on a lot of stuff to add in the defensive traps. And when we get into the traps for me are going to be cards that can actually benefit my engine. When I'm playing a deck like this, I want all my cards to be able to help me, even if they don't hurt my opponent. Because by helping me, I will be able to hurt my opponent, because by helping me, that means they're going to start my engine. That means I'm facilitating fusion summoning plays, which means that I have access to cards like Al Capone, Winda, cards like Construct. Construct's an interruption. I can dump Dragon. I can dump Aerial. You know, I can generate advantage. I can draw cards. I can special summon cards. I can do a lot with just a single Construct. I can summon cards like Shikinaga. So by helping me, I'm already hurting my opponents. Like, I'm only playing the one normal summon starter, but this deck, its starters are in a different form. They're not always just going to be normal summon, activate effect, and I start my engine. Sometimes your starters are fusion spells. Sometimes your starters are traps. Sometimes you literally just sit and pass and you win in 2021. But anyways, Mathman is your entire deck. He is the equivalent of Squamata. I've always said this, Mathman has so many tricks up his sleeve. It's ridiculous. This dude is the entire deck. He's the best normal summon. There's no other normal summon I would play over him. There's others that I would add to, but I would never sacrifice him for any other. Mathman has always been the best normal summon in the deck. He adds to a layer of consistency to this deck. Squamata is the best Shaddolls monster. It's literally the entire deck. It accesses any card. Wendy's the second best. She can access Squamata or Hedgehog. Hedgehog actually searches your entire deck as well. So Wendy, in a sense, Wendy, Hedgehog, and Squamata and Mathman, all 12 of these monsters access your entire deck. Whether you want to spell a trap, okay. Squamata can either dump it or you can dump Wendy to special summon Hedgehog, flip that search. Hedgehog can be flipped to search. Hedgehog can even search a monster that you need. Wendy can special summon them. She can also special Hedgehog or Squamata. Either way, these can access any Shaddolls card in your deck. It's different ways that they interact, but no matter how the interaction occurs, the bottom line and the end result is you get the card regardless. And that's why I like these 12. I don't like to play any less than 3 of these because these actually make the deck more consistent. This lineup right here. These are the cards you want to be seeing all the time. You don't mind multiples. You really don't mind. And then I've always been huge on 3 Ariel. I won't cut this card ever. I don't care what anybody says. Ariel's always been good at 3. Even back when the structure deck first came out, I was playing 3. You know, when Shaddolls actually were like the deck to beat, when Spirals were at full power and Dinos were in the meta, and it was like Spirals, Dinos, Lunalights, you know, and people were even playing Rocket Dragon Link, that format. Ariel's amazing, and right now, Ariel destroys Drytrons, it destroys Dinos, it destroys Eldritch. To be honest, I don't know why people think this deck has a bad Eldritch matchup. Eldritch is one of the easiest matchups for me ever. In fact, I'd rather be paired with an Eldritch player than like any other trap deck, to be honest. Like, this deck just beats Eldritch. It's really good against Eldritch. People say Eldritch beats this deck. And you know why? Because they listen to people like Simo. And what do they say? Well, Winda sucks against that deck, so Shaddolls suck. And I hate when people say that if Winda's not good, then Shaddolls are not good. Because that just sounds so... It just doesn't make sense. Like, so you mean to tell me that this is the Winda dot deck, basically? That means that you really don't know how to play Shaddolls, because this deck has so many tricks up its sleeve. Like I said, it has so many problem-solving cards, a solution to so many problems. You have Construct, you have Al Capone, you have cards like Grista if you really want to play it. You have Onoatilis, you have Shikinaga. It's more than just Winda, but people focus so much on Winda that they forget about all these other cards that they can use to beat their opponent, and they just choose to summon Winda. You know, sometimes I win duels literally just by summoning Construct, by summoning Al Capone, especially against Dinos. I'm summoning Al Capone. I'm perma-negating the Doka. I'm literally using Hound to change the conductor to defense. I'm banishing their graveyard. And I'm sitting on an Al Capone that literally they can't even run over. And then I'm just getting Shaddolls Fusion next turn. Like, there's just so many ways to beat these decks, and this card just destroys, like, the meta. It kills Virtual Worlds. It kills Drytrons. It kills Dinos. The card's really, really good. Even against Zodiacs, banishing their Tridents, banishing their XYZ so that they can't Mega Clops, and you can out the Mega Clops eventually. This card is just ridiculously good. It's so good. Ironically, Vorlode Savage can equip stuff. This card is just really good, you guys. Ariel is crazy. Triple DD Crow. Don't forget, the way I use Ariel, it's an engine in itself. Ariel becomes better than Squamata, Wendy, and Hedgehog because it does everything they do in a better way after you set it up, because it literally special summons Construct. Construct is better than Squamata because she dumps, does what Squamata does, and then recovers a card, and she can also out a card that, like, for example, can't be targeted. So, like, Ariel's amazing. Obviously, you're going to summon in defense. You're not attacking, like, that turn, but you can actually do this on your opponent's turn. And what I like to do with Ariel is I banish targets for itself with its first effect, or I use Shaddolls Schism to banish a Construct to summon a second Construct, dump a Wendy, use a Wendy, special the Ariel, and what's going to happen, I'm going to flip that Ariel, and I'm going to literally special summon that Construct that was banished off of the Schism in the first place, and just keep recycling and just keep recovering my cards. It's just really, really good. So these are the Shaddolls I would never, ever, ever play any less than 3. This is why I love playing 60, because I can do stuff like this. The remaining Shaddolls are 1 Beast, 1 Falco, 1 Hound. These are the remaining utility cards that can actually help you, per se. Like, this card allows you to change defense monsters to attack, or change attack monsters to defense, and change face downs to face up. The card literally changes battle positions. That's a very strong effect, believe it or not. You can use it on your own cards to flip your Shaddolls on your turn if Shadow Games and Resh Engrave wasn't enough. It's also really good against dinos because you can change Conductor to defense in the battle phase. And what I do is I actually use El Shaddol Fusion to make Al Capone with a different attribute, and I go Al Capone Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2 Squamata. The Squamata is searched by using Resh to summon Construct from the graveyard in their draw phase. I dump Hedgehog, search Squamata, so my El Shaddol Fusion can fuse with Squamata. That's what I typically do a lot with Squamata. I talked about this in my video, saying like, every time you play this deck, if you're setting yourself up to fuse in your opponent's turn, you want to get access to Resh, use Resh to summon Construct in your opponent's draw phase, dump a Hedgehog and search this. Every time you fusion summon with L, you should use Squamata because it can dump any card you need. So if you need a DD Crow, you have the DD Crow. If you need an MST, you have the Dragon. If you need a search, you have the search. If you need a special, you have a special. If you need Hound to activate El Shaddol Fusion in battle phase, go Chainlink 1 Al Capone, target Doka, perm negate, Chainlink 2 Squamata, Chainlink 3 whatever, dump the Hound off of Chainlink 2, everything resolves, Doka's permanently negated, Conductor goes to defense, and you have Al Capone in field. What's going to happen next turn? You get a Shaddol Fusion, and now you just get to break their board and OTK them. That's why I personally don't summon Winda a lot against dinos. I like to actually let them commit into their extra deck first so that my Shaddol Fusion has value, because I like to OTK them. I don't want to play the slow, grindy, I activate traps, hope is good enough. Nah, bro, like I want to kill them. So I want them to commit to their extra deck. I actually literally choose to not summon Winda even when I can. And Hound is really good for interactions like that. It's really, really strong. Even changing Golden Lord to defense, it's a very, very good utility card. And it recycles your extra deck. It adds any Shaddol card to your hand. So like I can infinite grind with this to a very large extent by flipping a Resh Incarnation to loop this off of Falco, or just summon it off of Resh itself, flip this, use this effect, put Constructs back, and just keep using Constructs to add the Resh, keep using the rest to flip this, and just keep recycling my extra deck so I don't run out of Shaddol Fusion monsters like ever. It's really, really strong. Falco, again, just adds a layer to the grind game. Is a really, really powerful card. And Beast just draws cards. But in a variant like this, because I'm cutting down on a lot of the fusion spells, this high level is very bricky because I'm typically, if I don't have a fusion outlet, this card is basically either going to be fodder off Al Capone if I'm triggering it on my opponent's turn, and if not, it's just a dead name. So that's why I'm playing one. And the final Shaddolls, I'm playing double Dragon. Dragon is a beast this format. You can even flip this on your opponent's turn just to get that bounce. That Compulse is very strong. It's very, very strong. Dragon, like I said, he's a beast this format. He really is. Dragon and Ariel are really, really good right now. And like Hound is very, very underrated. Like very underrated. A lot of people will literally say, cut that Hound. Don't play that Hound. It's a brick. That card sucks. They, like personally for me, I don't want to say like people are like doing stuff wrong, but I will say that people don't know how to use Hound. That's why they don't play him. If you knew how to use him, you would play him in every Shaddol list. That's why I play him in every Shaddol list. I just don't cut him. I cut Kaios before I cut Hound. That's how good Hound is. And Kaios is like really good because he's a light and you could just get him to make bad hands playable. But with like the new Magistus Link 1, it's not as bad. You don't really need Kaios that much. And then these are going to be either a Mathman target or Shaddol Fusion targets. I like Golden Lord a lot. He just makes the grind game even more insane. Just being able to consistently add this card to your hand and either pressure your opponent by putting it on field to put damage on field, or keeping it in your hand so that you can just out a threat and next turn just keep doing it. Sometimes I literally add it to my hand just to discard it and get rid of a card. It's really strong. Like Golden Lord is very powerful, and your Shaddol spells and traps that you dump off of him to summon, you can recover those from grave to hand off of your Shaddol card. So it's like very, very good that the cost can be supplemented in a very, very large degree. So I like it. I like the way Golden Lord interacts with the Shaddol cards. Now for hand traps, I'm on 3 Gamma. This is like the best hand trap in this deck. It's a light. It forces your cards to resolve, which is really, really, really powerful. It's so good. Like Gamma is just crazy. In this deck, particularly, this is one of the better decks to play Gamma in. Shaddolls are just so synergistic with this card. I could just name a list of different interactions where Gamma literally forces your cards to resolve. It's so good. You oftentimes are actually using it to negate your opponent's negates or hand traps. Because Shaddol Fusion is just that good of a card. And we have triple Ash. triple Bell, and also triple Skullmeister. So I not only play a lot of traps, but I'm playing a lot of hand traps. So I took out my gas. You guys see I'm not playing like Poly. You're going to see I'm not playing Poly or Fright for Patchwork or, you know, any of my other fusion searchers. Not because they're like bad cards, but what do those cards honestly do against Vanity's Ruler? Back when Heralds were being first introduced into like the Drytron archetype, when they started playing it, people were using Herald and VFD because Link Cross was not banned. So they weren't summoning Vanity's Ruler. They were actually going into VFD and Herald. And I was really cool with not playing hand traps because I could easily play under VFD. And also I could chain block and Super Poly. I mentioned in one of my videos how Super Poly cracked through the VFD and the Herald board by summoning cards like Muddragon of the Swamp. And now they're just ending on Vanity's Ruler and Herald. Sometimes it's just Vanity's Ruler and no Herald. And they have Herald of the Orange Light with Eva in hand. And that's really, like, it's really scary against this deck. It's like really hard to crack through that. So now I can't just break the board. I actually have to prevent it from happening. And that's where hand traps are really good at. I purposely... personally, I like to play equalizers. I'd rather break the board, honestly. Like, I'd rather just, like, let it happen and break it because I use less resources to break it, in my opinion. But with hand traps, they're a gamble. They're risky one-for-one interactions that may or may not deter what your opponent's going to do. And because of that, I play a higher amount. They're also all fusion attributes, except for Ash. I can make Construct with this, Window with this, and Shikinaga with this. So if I ever draw like a doll and one of these in a fusion, I can still play. But that's why I'm playing a higher amount, because I feel if I don't play a high enough amount, then there's no reason to play any at all, because there's no single one of these that can end any meta deck's turn right now. But a combination of any of these is going to be really good against anything. Ash, Bell, Skullmeister, Gamma. Gamma plus anything's nuts. Like, Gamma itself is so good right now. But just having Ash, Bell, and Gamma, these cards interact extremely well against Virtual Worlds and Drytrons. Also against Zodiac Eldritch, which is another really popular deck. And against Prank Kids, because I respect that deck. So I'm playing the 12 hand traps and getting into the defensive cards. I'll show the fusion spells before I get into the defensive cards. Because the hand traps and the traps kind of go together as defensive cards. You have your starters, you have your engine cards, you have your gas, and then you have your defensive cards being hand traps and traps, which just really help this deck a lot, and it makes it harder to side deck against. And then we have triple Shaddol Fusion, triple L Shaddol Fusion. So Shaddol Fusion is way more powerful, but L is more flexible. Activating in draw phase, play around Dweller, play around Droll and Lockbird, play around Knighted, the Fleur de Lis, play around Veiler. Activate it, chaining to anti-spell, chain it to D-barrier, chain this card to like any floodgate, chain this card to summon limit. This card is very, very versatile, very flexible. You can even chain it to make your opponent miss a target, which is really, really powerful. It's crazy. Even against Dogmatic Punishment chain, they miss their target. Like, this card's really nuts. And all it is just a quick play. That's all it does, is just fusion summon quick play. But that quick play aspect gives it a level of flexibility that makes it my go-to over this card a lot. The way I set up with this card is I actually let my opponent commit. And sometimes I even use this like a D-barrier. I ain't even gonna lie. Like, sometimes I literally dump this off construct to make my opponent scared. Like, I put pressure on them, and it's that mind game where it's like, dude, are you ballsy enough? Like, do you have the balls to actually go into your extra deck? And you really think I'm not going to use this against you, bro? Like, you better get ready. So sometimes it's nice to put a window on field while dumping this, because it makes it very difficult, you know what I mean? Because you're going to use Rest Incarnation to special the construct and draw phase anyways. That's how I play. Wind is coming down off El Shaddol Fusion, and the second wind is coming off Schism. But when you're putting windows on the field and you have Shaddol Fusion engraved, it makes it very difficult for anybody to play, because even if they have the outs to the window, they have to recognize that this card is there. And when that window dies, if it goes to the graveyard, I'm getting this back. So now you out at the window's been in the process, you gave me a 1-card OTK. Think about it. And then we also have 3 copies of Super Poly. This card's nuts. Like, it's one of the freest outs to cards like Dragoon and Makaba and Borlode Savage and you name it. Just VFD calling Dark, I can just Super Poly a lot easier. It's just really, really good. But VFD pretty much calling any attribute that's relevant for me, whether it's Earth or Light, and also Dark. I like all of those. But like, if they call like Wind or Water or Fire, I can't really do much. But they're typically going to call Light a lot of the times because of Drytron. I can do a lot with that. Because I can now make Construct with their VFD because he actually becomes a Light. So this card's really good against VFD. This card's really good interacting with Herald. It's really good against dinos, and it's really, really scary against Eldritch, because you can literally super poly the Golden Lord, summon Construct, dump Aerial, banish the Golden Lord, and the Golden Land spells and traps. So this card is nuts. And then finally, I have Foolish. These 10 cards are gas. Like, I'm basically playing 10 fusion outlets. And Mathman actually is a fusion outlet, because you can normal him, dump Tricklon, make Verde and Anaconda, dump Shaddall fusion off of Verde, and fuse with the Shaddolls in your hand, and that is actually a fusion outlet. So I have 10, 13 fusion outlets. And that's good enough in a controlled variant like this, because I'm not actually turboing out Construct like I normally do, you know what I mean? And I love that playstyle, but I also don't mind this one where I have more comfortable outs to very, very big problems. Like literally, for me, Herald and Vanity's Ruler is so detrimental that if I can't stop that board from happening, I just don't see a way of playing unless I have like a Solemn Strike plus like Dogmatic Punishment. Because I can like pop, strike, dump Aerial, banish their Drytrons, you know? But for the traps, I'm on triple Torrential Tribute, triple Shadow Games. I also play double Dogmatic Punishment, double Trap Trick, and the rest are going to be Shaddol traps. So I'm going to talk about this right here, because a lot of people could say, where's your Dino Mischief? Where's your Ice Dragon's Prison? Where's your Solemn Strike? Where's your this? Where's your that? If I'm going to play Shaddol traps, trap Shaddolls, the only trap cards I ever want to see are traps that can both benefit me and hurt my opponent at the same time. The double-edged sword, you know what I mean? It's the multi-purpose aspect that really it's beneficial for me. There's no other way I would ever want to play Trap Shaddolls. I don't really think Ice Dragon's Prison is a bad card, but it's not going to help me against one of the decks that I'm worried about. I don't think that D-Bear is a bad card. I don't think Solemn Strike's a bad card. I think Dino Mischief is a great card if you have a good discard like Windy or Squamata. But what these cards are is, these are live interruptions, but that can also start my engine. Shaddolls float, right? So TT, you don't lose your value with this card. You can actually plus off of it. Punishment, Trap Trick, and Shadow Games literally let me see my Shaddol engine. So I can dump Al Capone, search a Schism. Oh, I can't summon from my extra deck on my next turn. Schism's a trap. I have to set it anyway, so it's perfect for me. So this card literally lets me search out my Schism, which is really, really strong, and it sets my graveyard up at the same time. Trap Trick does the same thing. Shadow Games dumps any Shaddol card. It's more copies of Squamata, and it has that utility of being able to flip my face down so I can interact with my opponent even more. Chain Block, cards like Falco, Dragon, and this card's actually really, really strong in multiples because it's not actually once per turn. That's why I'm playing 3 of this. These are the only 3 ofs, and you could argue 3 Trap Trick, but I thought about it and I'm like, okay, if I play 3 Trap Trick, I'm basically going to cut this down to 2. And I'd rather play 3 of this, to be honest, because this is a card I want to see. Torrential's a card I want to see. Trap Tricks is just extra copies of these, or it's my basically my 3rd and my 4th of punishment. I don't like to see multiple punishment. I only want to see 1 a duel, because after I resolve the first, I'm going to be going deep into my extra deck, so I don't really ever want to cut myself off again. It can be really, really strong as an interruption, because you can pop a monster, grab Aerial, banish 3, pop a monster, grab Dragon, pop a back row, pop a monster, grab Windy, special summon from your deck. So there's a lot of utility with this card as well. It's basically almost like another Shadow Games in that aspect. It does a lot. And that's what I mean. Like, all these traps can hurt my opponent because this can dump Aerial, this can dump Dragon, this can do so many different things. It's just like Construct, you know, but they also not only can hurt my opponent, but they help me. These cards can unbrick me. These cards can start my engine. So these are the only traps I would play if you ask me, but everybody thinks different. Everybody plays different. This is just me. And then I play double Rest, double Schism, and 1 Core. I actually found in testing that the second Schism is very, very, very good. In fact, even if I wasn't playing Trap Dolls, I was already playing 2 Schisms in my combo variant. I just felt like, wow, this is so important. Like, getting access to this and Resh, these are my 2 go-tos. I go for L 3rd now. L used to be my first priority. Now my first priority is Schism and this. Because it's not just the, oh, I get to fusion summon every turn. I get a snowball out of control. It's, I get to consistently out cards without targeting or destroying. And I get to keep pressure on my opponent. And I literally get to access my entire deck. Like, this card is nuts. Like, this card being on the field literally will just get you +2s and 3s. It's so powerful right now. Like, Schism, I hope this never, ever, ever gets addressed on the ban list because it's not worth it. Now for the extra deck, I'm playing my 4 Construct. This card's Bay, never getting power grab. Construct is just an overpowered card, but it's kind of like, it's overpowered the way I use it, but it's very balanced and designed. Right now in this format, it's a well-designed and balanced card because there's like 30, probably 100 other cards that are way more OP than this that aren't even being like touched. Like Construct is probably never gonna go. And this is something different. I'm actually playing 3 Al Capones. I'm checking here. Oh, okay, yeah, 3 Al Capones. So like, I've been using this card a lot, and this card is just incredible. I mean, like, this card is nuts, you guys. Like, Al Capone is so good. I've been grinding a lot. Like, I do a lot with Shaddolls. I play this deck a lot. Like, whenever I'm on, like, D-Big, I play with Shaddolls, too. Like, I try to play other decks and, like, change it up, but this is one of my go-to decks, and I use this card so much. This is actually, like, my second favorite Shaddolls. Construct and Al Capone are my main go-tos. I actually rarely summon Winda unless I know the deck loses to Winda. See, I'm not the kind of Shaddolls player that blind Winda. Like, I set up on purpose for Winda just to flip it. Like, whenever I have access to these, I can access Winda too, but I actually choose to access these because my preference is to set up cards like Cross Sheep and get my Resh and get my Incarnation and get my L and actually generate advantage and kind of make this that utility, that toolbox where I can access whatever I need for the situation. And the reason why I can is because I can dump any card I need to. But if I summon Winda and they out it, I don't have any follow-ups, you know what I mean? So like, I play in a very, very strategic manner where I calculate what my opponent's gonna do, and after that I decide whether or not it's time for Winda. But a lot of the times I go for these cards. I go for the advantage, I go for the recursion, and these also give you follow-up OTKs, but this does not. But like I said, anytime I could go for these, I could easily make her. It's just that I prefer to summon these a lot more, and I'm going through Al Capones like crazy, you guys, like, believe it or not. Card's really nuts. It's like dinos, just this card just doodles all over dinos, bro. Like, you permanently negate Conductor in battle phase all the time, summoning it off of Resh, and you just keep grinding, using it to add aerial from graveyard to hand or from deck to hand, and keep banishing their dinos like till there's just like nothing left. And once Conductor's permanently negated, the Conductor's not even a big deal against this deck, neither is Doka. The only thing you really need to worry about is if they summon Dweller. Other than that, your dino matchup is very, very easy. I've never really had like a problem playing against dinos. I like dinos and Eldritch and Zodiacs. I like playing against those decks. I don't mind VW because, like I said, I'm not even capping. Like, True King of all Calamities is not even that bad. You have so many different attributes, and they can all activate in graveyard, and you could still play, get access to your cards depending on the composition of your hand. And you do have blowouts like TT, you have Shadow Games, etc. But it's more like Drytrons that's a problem. So there's a lot of meta decks that I really don't mind playing against because I have a good matchup against them. But Drytrons is probably like my worst matchup right now if they go first. But if I go first, I don't even know how they're going to win. So we have Sheki. You have to respect Sheki. This also makes it to where Schism can out cards like Megaclops. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, you guys. So yeah, Schism can out cards like Megaclops now because of this. This also makes your Zodiac matchup a lot easier. Like, Winda already kind of destroys that deck, but just having access to a card like this is just really, really, really powerful. I love it. Like, Shiki-Naga is an incredibly powerful card. Honestly, this card's basically like Hair to the Orange, like Gamma against special summon monsters. 3k booty, it floats, you can recover it, summon it again, recycle it off of Resh Incarnation, or put it back into your extra deck with Hound and keep summoning it. Like, I love actually summoning the Shaddolls monster. You see, I play 9 fusion monsters, literally. Like, this is why I don't like playing Invoke dolls. It takes too much space. Like, I'd rather just play pure. I like my pure dolls. I love it. And Draco, this is a really good super poly target. I can hit Dragoon or Makaba and just, take one of my dolls down with it. I also can, if my opponent has both, or if my opponent has Winda Makaba and they change Schism to my effect that special summons, I could just basically set the super poly pass, flip it on their turn, fusing with their Winda and their Makaba whenever I feel threatened, put this card on board, and it's a negator, and I outed 2 problems at the same time. So this is a really good super poly target. I like this one. Now for my utility cards, I'm on Gravity Controller. I can't cut this. It's a utility card. It's really good. And then we have Cross Sheep, one of my favorite go-tos. I actually don't really link this off ever. I love to just leave it on the field and use it as much as I possibly can. I have Verde Anaconda. This is another utility card. My extra deck is just another toolbox for me. I'm using Mathman to make this whenever I need to. And this is just another way to out Dragoon. This is another way to just out problems. Just send the Super Poly and fuse it away. It's really, really good. And also, when you don't have fusion spells, but you have bodies on field, it's amazing. And then Boral Sword. I could, honestly, I did think about cutting a card and then cutting this and throwing in Celine and access code. Because back in the day, I used to go Cross Sheep, bring a spellcaster back, go into Celine, Celine, bring a spellcaster back, going to access code. And it made OTKing a lot easier. But I ain't gonna lie, Boar Sword is still a really, really nutty card. Access code's more for like clearing the boards, you know what I mean? So it's something I've thought about and it's something you could try. Now the side deck does have different color sleeves, don't kill me. We have 3 Nibs, 3 Lancias. We also have 3 Denkos. I love the fact that this is a deck that can play Denko in a very comfortable manner because it stuns back rows, it's good against every trap deck, and it's a light, so it's a fusion attribute. So all 9 of these are combo pieces, and they're also cards to stop my opponent. I love these. These are turn-ender blowout cards, and instead of Droll, since I already made like 12 hand traps, I actually wanted to play Dark Ruler because I want to be able to draw it as my 6th card and use it. And basically just like Dark Ruler them and break their board, which is just really, really good. The thing with Droll is like, Droll can be risky sometimes because like, if I draw them and I draw like a buttload of traps and only a few starters, like I won't really be able to break their board. I might be able to set up a way to play. But like, at least with Dark Ruler, I can draw it as my 6th card. And even if I can't break their board, if I can still deal with the Vanity's Ruler and like just set my traps, I'm okay with that. I just kind of like this better than Droll right now. For me, like if I was playing the combo variant with a bunch of fusion outlets, I would just play Droll because I could like OTK them on the follow-up. But since I'm not OTKing them on the follow-up anyways, I feel like why not just play Dark Ruler? I'm not going to OTK them, they take no damage. And it's going to make it a lot easier to deal with it. They can play around Droll, but they can't really play around this. And it's just, it's a comfort thing for me. I just prefer this over Droll against Drytrons. And then I'm playing 3 Evenly just for anything. Evenly is just always generically good. But yeah, that's going to be the end of the video, you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. God bless you guys. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, Lord Jesus Christ. Thy kingdom come, and thy will be done on earth just as it is in heaven. Please give us this day our daily bread, Lord Jesus, and please forgive us of our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, Father, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the glory, and the power forever. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ, Yeshua, I pray. Thank you, Lord Jesus. Amen. All right, you guys. Deuces.